We're at part 7, page 161, and we're in the integumentary system, and we're working up to the last bits of skin structure in terms of accessory functions, or accessories, and then we'll move on to functions. And here we are at the part 7 here, sebaceous glands, oil. It's a very oily gland secretion, simple, mostly, well, and somewhat branched. As we can see right here, it's this one, right? Sebaceous gland on the side. It's delivering basically lanolin-like oily types of substance to the surface of the skin and the hair. We're trying to lubricate and keep soft all of this material. More prevalent on the face, neck, upper chest of the individual. Not so much the lower trunk, not so much the legs. Mostly face, neck, chest. And it's interesting that the erector pillae contractions, there are actually to some degree undulating or pulsing contractions that go along with breath, attributed to erector pillae, and these are going to force the sebum out of the hair follicles and onto the skin surface. The notation here is that we get softening lubrication of hair and skin. We get, to some degree, prevention of brittle hair development and breaking. We also prevent water loss from the skin. It's got a bactericidal molecule for killing bacteria on the surface. It is stimulated, this whole process actually is stimulated by androgens. So childhood, early development, sometimes a little bit more prevalent in males than females in terms of acute development. Okay, they talk here about the homeostatic imbalance of blackheads, and that can be determined. We have basically oxidation of the materials that turn black. It's a side effect of acne and so on. There is bacterial infection involved, usually. Okay, then we move on to functions of the integumentary system, and we get some titles here. Protection is one of the major titles to consider. So how are we protected by this outer coat? It's a chemical barrier. We provide actually an acid mantle, although we use somewhat alkaline substances like soap to wash our skin after things dissolve in the acid mantle. That's a way of cleaning, but then the acid mantle returns fairly quickly to the surface. We have a physical barrier involved here. You'll notice that even with a paper cut, that it's unpleasant to do things like handle lemons or onions and that sort of thing, that the barrier has been broken in that regard. So the physical barrier aspect is important. We have the stratified squamous epithelium there for that purpose, to prevent abrasion. Then we have, breaching the barrier. Okay, so inasmuch as we have a physical barrier, it is subject to, transitions. There are things that permeate. So vitamin A, D, E, K, all of these soluble vitamins. Things that are lipid soluble generally can. Oxygen, carbon dioxide penetrate. We know they penetrate through for instance, the cornea of the eye. So it's important to rest your eyes if you have contacts and take them out once in a while. Estrogens can be given as patches or as dissolvable little units under the skin. So steroids can present as something crossing the barrier of the skin. Oleoresins from poison oak, poison ivy can penetrate and sometimes cause an allergic reaction of the type 4 hypersensitivity. Organic solvents are very dangerous. We have acetone, which is the way to clean the nail color from one's nails, and it's also there are other types of substances. Dry cleaning fluid, paint thinner is particularly dangerous, and anything that dissolves paint and removes paint from chairs when you're trying to, for instance, make a nice wood finish, and you remove that paint, the how shall I say, solvent is very dangerous. It's best to use some sort of a face mask and gloves so that it doesn't cross the skin barrier and does not get inhaled. Salts of heavy metals, very dangerous. Historically, keys are actually made from, how shall I say, alloys with lead, and this is problematic. We also had house paint and industrial paint for the Golden Gate Bridge and so on, that was lead-based. If one time I used to put the key to my car inside my glove when I went for runs in the wintertime, and I ended up with a type 4 hypersensitivity on the palm of my hand, some contact dermatitis. So there are problems. Lead can actually, just by touching it or holding it, perspiring with lead in the hand, that's not a good thing. So then we also have mercury, which is oftentimes it's the side effect, the side product of producing paper, and so where that occurs, sometimes there's streams, rivers, lakes that are polluted with mercury. Certain drugs are able to cross nitroglycerin. Elderly people with certain types of heart conditions and blood pressure, elevated blood pressure, can be noted to take their nitroglycerin pill under the tongue and wait for it to dissolve and pass through. Nicotine can be used as a patch directly on the skin. So that's a possibility. There's, how shall I say, there's for relieving emesis, certain drugs that can penetrate the skin. We're up here now, and we have another consideration here: drug agents that are called penetrating enhancers. There is a product out on the market right now for knee joints and other types of joint relief that it just penetrates. Actually, it's got some herbs and some. I've actually crushed some ibuprofen in with Penetrex and used it on a sprained ankle, and it was very effective at delivering. It turns out that aspirin and ibuprofen do cross the skin barrier. So, and with the assistance of Penetrex, it worked even better. Okay, so we have to watch out for organic solvents. Remember, paint thinner and heavy metals like lead can actually give rise to lots of pathology, ultimately. So then we come down here to body temperature. Body temperature is greatly regulated by the skin, so we can radiate heat at the skin surface by sending a lot of blood to the surface. If there's a fever, people have blood coming to the surface, and you can feel the radiation of heat. You can also note that when we're cold, we'll withdraw the blood. We'll even withdraw to the point of making goosebumps occur. So that's certainly a possibility. Okay, so regulation of body temperature. And you do have a lot of blood in the body, and therefore you have a considerable, how shall I say, heat sink in the water itself that can be considered with the blood. Okay, then let's see where we are here. There we are. We talked about the heavy metals, and cutaneous sensation is important as a function. We can touch things and know where we are. We can determine many of the qualities of something based on touch alone. We know that a metal is cool and very hard and smooth sometimes, and that velvet considerably different in touch and quality. Metabolic functions are important here, vitamin D particularly. Let's pick up on that in the next step here.